Little Elam Baptist Church, A Legacy of Faith, 1880-25, celebrating 139 years of worship, work, and witness. A people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. For 139 years, Little Elam Baptist Church has stood as a living testimony of faith, unity, and perseverance. The story begins in 1886 when members of Elam Baptist Church sought a place of worship closer to their homes. Among them were Ritson Atkins, Allen and Bolden Bradby, John Carter, Levi and Wyatt Cotman, Henry and John Jones, Joseph Taylor, and Alexander Wallace. Levi Cotman donated the land, and together with Al and William Cotman, hauled the timber for the first building. William Adkins and Joseph Taylor built it by hand, and the first revival held in 1887 brought 37 new believers. James D. Cotman became the first clerk, and Al J. Cotman the first deacon. Without a pastor, Reverends Thomas Bailey and Thomas Johnson preached and baptized. Then, on October 19, 1889, Reverend James M. Hampton was ordained and became the first pastor of Little Elam Baptist Church. Under his leadership, the church grew quickly. Trustees were appointed, insurance secured, and new preachers were licensed, including John E. Jones, who went on to organize St. John Baptist Church. The congregation soon outgrew its small wooden structure, and the dream for a larger church began. In 1905, Reverend Dr. Wyatt Cotman became the second pastor. During his 26 years of service, he expanded the grounds, prepared the cemetery, and empowered the deacons to write the first church constitution, adopted in 1914. The first choir was organized in 1931 under Josiah S. Wallace, the second clerk. After Reverend Cotman's passing that same year, the church called Reverend Bolden Bradby of Rushmere, Virginia, as the third pastor. Under his leadership, Wednesday night prayer meetings began, and the gospel chorus, now the Bradby Memorial Gospel Chorus, was formed. Through the 1930s and 40s, ministries flourished. The Missionary Circle, the Young People's Improvement Club, and the Junior Choir were all established. In 1947, Herbert and Alice Cotman deeded land for a new sanctuary dedicated in 1952. The 1950s brought continued progress. The usher board was formed, the senior choir reorganized, and classrooms and restrooms were added. Reverend Bradby served faithfully until his passing in 1959. In 1961, Reverend Benjamin W. Robinson Jr. of Williamsburg became the fourth pastor. Communion services were moved from quarterly to monthly, white gloves were introduced, and worship expanded to the first and third Sundays. In 1967, the church adopted its first budget system. The 1970s ushered in a new era of growth under Reverend Robert W. Young Sr., elected in 1971. Worship was held every Sunday, women were given voting rights in church business meetings, and the deaconess board was organized. The church joined the Dover Baptist Association and created the Board of Christian Education in 1975. By the 1980s, the sanctuary was beautifully renovated with a balcony, office, portico, and choir loft. The men's choir was organized, and in 1985, Ethel Jones Williams became the first female clerk. In 1988, the education wing was completed with classrooms, a kitchen, and a pastor's study. That same year, Little Elam sponsored missionaries to Jamaica, followed by mission trips to Mexico in 1992 and Brazil in 2003, 2005, and 2009, sharing the gospel across borders. In 1992, Susie Cotman Adkins became the first female deacon, and throughout the 1990s, the church expanded its property, licensed new ministers, and continued to strengthen its foundation. In 1996, the church added a baptistry built into the sanctuary behind the choir loft, allowing the congregation to witness the joy of baptism right within the house of worship, a lasting symbol of new beginnings and spiritual rebirth. Reverend Young retired in 1999 after 28 years of leadership. Reverend Daniel Wallace served as interim pastor until 2001, when Reverend Charlotte McSwine Harris became the sixth and first female pastor of Little Elam. Her term ended in 2002, and shortly after, Deacon Isaac and Deaconess Florence Cotman donated nearly 2 acres of land for cemetery use. In 2003, the church called Reverend Frank M. Long Jr. as its seventh pastor. Under his leadership, new ministries were developed, including discipleship classes for new members, the youth and young adult ministry, known as YM, and children's church. He also introduced the prison ministry and supported multiple mission trips to Brazil. During this time, several were licensed to preach, including Doreen Cephas, Geraldine Craddock, Michael Armstead, Marilyn Williams, and Frances Maxine Jones, who each carried the message of faith beyond the church walls. In July 2008, Michael Jones was installed as Minister of Music, enriching worship and continuing the strong legacy of sacred music within the church. Under his direction, the Music and Arts Department has flourished, producing plays, themed Sundays, and creative worship experiences that bring the Word of God to life through artistry and praise. In 2010, Julene J. Branch became the 9th and current clerk of Little Elam Baptist Church, faithfully continuing to serve the congregation and support the ministry. After 11 years of service, Reverend Frank M. Long Jr. announced his resignation in November 2014. His leadership left a legacy of ministry growth and mission expansion that strengthened the foundation for the church's future. During the pastoral vacancy, associate ministers and guest ministers can continue to lead worship and keep the church strong until the next leader was called. In 2016, Reverend Daniel Wesley Patterson Sr. was installed as the 8th pastor of Little Elam Baptist Church. Under his leadership, the church has continued to grow in ministry, outreach, and innovation. In March 2019, the church closed its doors to in-person services due to the coronavirus pandemic. Though the sanctuary fell silent, the spirit of worship remained strong. Little Elam transitioned to drive-up parking lot services, allowing members to gather safely in their vehicles while still worshiping together. Through innovation and faith, the church embraced new ways to connect, launching its official website, littleelam.org, and using social media platforms to stay engaged with the community. Each Sunday, the praise team kept spirits high through song, while church leaders guided the congregation through one of the most challenging seasons in modern history. In 2022, the church joyfully reopened its doors for in-person worship, returning to the sanctuary with renewed faith, gratitude, and celebration. In 2023, Little Elam continued to grow physically and spiritually, completing the construction of a new pavilion, a welcoming outdoor space for fellowship, outreach, and community events. The pavilion stands as a symbol of resilience and renewal, built out of faith and unity during the years that followed the pandemic. In 2024, the church completed a full conversion back from the pandemic safety setup. The audio, visual, and media center was remodeled and upgraded for live streaming and visual presentations, ensuring that worship at Little Elam could reach both those in the pews and those watching from home. Under Pastor Patterson's leadership, Little Elam has also expanded its community outreach with new and vibrant ministries, including Church in the Park, a joyful outdoor worship experience that brings faith beyond the church walls. Light Up the Night for Jesus, a family-centered celebration of light and love. And Grief Share, a compassionate support ministry, offering hope and healing to those walking through loss. God has truly blessed us, and we are grateful to acknowledge that at the time of presenting this history, we have 5 remarkable centurions in our church family. Deaconess Julia A. Cotman Jordan, 101. Elizabeth L. Wallace McBride, 101. Lutisha Wallace Jones, 103. Mary Crew, 101. And Dr. Thomas Carter, 100. Their lives and longevity stand as living testimonies of God's faithfulness across the generations. Through these ministries and others, Little Elam continues to serve as a beacon of hope and restoration, a church that not only worships within its walls, but reaches into the community with open arms. From a small wooden structure built by hand in 1886 to the thriving ministry it is today, Little Elam Baptist Church has remained a pillar of faith in Charles City County. Generation after generation, it has grown in strength, service, and spirit, rooted deeply in the love of God and the fellowship of believers. For 139 years, Little Elam has been more than a building. It has been a home of hope, a foundation of faith, and a beacon of light, shining for Christ in the heart of the community. This is the story of Little Elam Baptist Church. 139 years of worship, work, and witness to the glory of God. To learn more about our church history, please refer to the programs given out today or visit the About Us page under Church History online at littleelam.org.